For 6 years of my life, I grew up on the countryside of Jamaica with lots of cows, chickens, and butterflies. I lived in a huge house with my dad, grandparents, cousins, and uncles, and the house always had people in and out because we had a shop that sold groceries. Because of the amount of kids that lived in the house, we were always outside playing. We would play tag, soccer, fly kites, catch butterflies, or ride our bikes. I especially loved it when we rode our bikes because we would ride to a bridge that had a river underneath it with lots of fish. Sometimes we would try to drop rocks on the fishes as they swam by, but now that I think about it, that was very cruel. My house was a few blocks away from a church, so on Sunday mornings we could hear them singing. Growing up, my grandparents wanted my cousins and I to praise God no matter what. I remember when I was younger, I would always ask my grandfather to read Bible stories to me. Every night my grandmother would cook a huge pot of dinner for all the people living in our house. I loved my grandmother. She was the main person who held everyone together. She made sure everyone was comfortable, everyone had a nice meal, and she made sure the house was always clean. But when she died of cancer, everything fell apart. Everyone stopped acting like a family and went their separate ways. Growing up in Jamaica was really fun. My father and I would go to the beach almost every weekend. I remember when it would rain, my cousins and I would take turns putting a raincoat on to go outside and play in the rain. We would go out into a field in front of our house, catch butterflies, and put them in a room so they wouldn't fly away. The day when I had to leave Jamaica to move to America with my mother was the saddest day of my life. I had to leave all my cousins, uncles, and grandfather behind, and most of all, I had to leave my half-sister behind. While on the plane to America, I was nervous because it was my first time being on one, but after a while, I felt okay. When I arrived in America, we took a taxi from New York to Hartford, Connecticut. Connecticut looks so different from Jamaica. In Connecticut, there were a lot of huge buildings with lights. When I arrived at my mother's house, I immediately went to sleep because I was so tired. When I woke up the next morning, I opened my eyes, looked around, and had no idea where I was. I got up off the bed and walked out into a hallway. When I reached the end and saw my mother downstairs in the kitchen, I realized I wasn't in Jamaica anymore. And all I could think about is how this is going to be a huge change for me.